the amount is pitiful if you compare the grants that are being paid to the beef and dairy sectors. We have to start to encourage farmers to really move away from the beef and dairy sector because of the impact it's having on our greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture is responsible for 38% of our greenhouse gas emissions, and we're doing absolutely nothing to try and encourage farmers to make it more profitable and sustainable to move from beef and dairy to a sustainable forestry sector. We need to increase annually. We've a target of 8,000 hectares. Last year, to the figures I have, we only planted 1,600 acres, which is a fraction of what we actually need to be planting. And if you look at what the EPA have said, EPA have said we need to be planting between 13 and 40,000 hectares a year to meet our climate change commitments. We're nowhere near that. If you contrast the money that's being paid to what we're facing in fines for not meeting our climate change targets, we're looking at between 8 billion and 26 billion fines that's going to be levied on Ireland by 2030 if we don't meet these emissions. And this sum is pitiful when you look at the other figures that are involved in this.
The payment is in relation to 5,000 of hectares of existing land, but I suppose this is to people who are already committed to the forestry sector, and it doesn't do much, as you said, to encourage more people to get into the industry.
It is doing nothing to attract people into the forestry sector. It is something we have to begin to examine and take seriously, because we have international commitments. We have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, given what's coming down the line in terms of fine and in terms of the practical reality of our worsening situation. And this government, it is clear, hasn't taken it seriously. Previous governments haven't taken it seriously. It is a pitiful amount of money, given the scale of what we're facing into the future. Farmers have to be encouraged, dramatically encouraged, to look to afforestation as a means of sustainably getting an income and making effective use of the land. And it's something that we need to do, that the EPA has identified, that we need to be planting up between 13 and 40,000 hectares a year if we have to try and meet our climate change targets.
And I suppose, is there a bit of joint up thinking needed in that way, where you mentioned there is these environmental restrictions put on the farming sector as a whole, and yet you talk about the viability of, as you said, beef and dairy farming. They don't really see forestry as an option.
Yeah, well, I think that has to change. That outlook has to change. Forestry has to be, we don't have a culture of forestry in Ireland. That needs to change. No, it's not going to change overnight, but the very minimum thing you can do is put incentives in place that will cause farmers and landowners to think seriously about changing their land use to something which is far more sustainable. And it has been proved in the past that planting trees is an effective way of limiting our greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating towards the existing land uses that are causing those huge increasing our greenhouse gas emissions.
And I suppose we might just wrap it up, as you said, with the option of forestry. There's a wide range in terms of the different types of forest that can be planted.
Yes, we have to learn the mistakes of the past in relation to the species that we planted in the locations that we planted. And I think we've been at this now for the last 50 or 60 years, and we've learned valuable lessons of the three types that can and cannot be grown in Ireland, that people can farm effectively into the future. We can't grow fast-growing conifers. They need to be looked at, given that the increasing wind conditions we've experienced over the last number of years. Fast-growing conifers in shallow soils is not sustainable. We need to be looking at, deep-rooted, tap-rooted deciduous trees, and farmers are going to have to be compensated for it. There is no easy way out of this. If we have to try and reduce the impact that our agricultural sector is currently having on our climate, on our ecological footprint, on our climate footprint,